Hello, it's Michael Gunther with Collaboration, and I'm excited to share with you the first book of our book series that we're reading this year. Motley Fool put out a list this year of 12 best business books to read. So our team of Relentless Learners, which is one of our core values, decided to start reading these books, and the first one we started with is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. But it's been updated for the digital age. It was interesting, Carnegie first wrote this book in 1936. And to think that 80 years later, it is still relevant. And the basis of it is about how do you develop relationships and how do you really maintain, as a leader, solid relationships with all the stakeholders in your life, family, friends, as well as those at work. You know, I think sometimes we make it more complicated than it needs to be. And one thing I appreciated about the book was the simplicity of understanding what really makes good relationships and how do you really influence those around us. I think we've seen all different techniques and things come out over the years about how to really engage people and move them forward to the next level. But one thing I valued about the book, it's getting back to some real basics. I'm going to highlight a couple of things. First thing, just focus on them. Focus on the individuals. Know their names. What interests? Do you know what your employees' interests are? Do you know what matters to them in their life? To those that you work with, suppliers, do you know them beyond the function they provide for you? So part of Carnegie's was focus on them, get to know people. I know myself, when people come up to me and they remember my name, I've only maybe met them once or twice, I'm always impressed with that. Already I feel like, oh, I want to get connected with this individual. The other thing is influence through core values and a strong purpose. We hear a lot about this always, about organizations needing a strong purpose. The millennial generation needs to know what they're doing at work is purposeful and meaningful. These concepts haven't changed much. But we are getting away, I think, from consistently applying them and again, making the process more complicated than it needs to be. So I encourage you, make sure you have a strong purpose and connecting those core values, and you'll attract employees and people that want to be surrounded around those core values and that purpose. The other thing about trusting as a leader and building trust as a leader, you know, one is understanding our strengths, but being able to admit a mistake. I always think the leaders are able to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. I made a mistake. Let me tell you what I learned from it. And not blaming others for when things go wrong. As a leader, the reality is, if your company is not working, if your department's not working, the buck stops with you. So admitting that, realizing where your strengths are, realizing where you need to improve, just makes you a stronger leader and begins to build trust with those around you. It also talks about making sure you're giving credit to others. So often I've seen leaders, something goes well and their team worked on it, and all of a sudden they're the ones out in the limelight taking all the credit, versus reality, it's the team collaborative approach that made them successful. In addition, share your journey. Part of it is letting people know you've had your own struggles and your own ups and downs with your journey. It lets them realize they can get connected with you. A lot of times as leaders, we forget that people have this impression like, oh, they've done everything well. But the reality is we've all made mistakes. We all have our own journey. And the more you can share that journey, the more successful you and your team will be. And the more successful you'll be at influence your team, because they realize you're just like them on a path in life, learning and growing as individuals, and you've had your own struggles of moving ahead. And then, you know, how to lead, the last section of the book, really stay positive as things go wrong. You know, all of us have good things and bad things happen in our organizations. But even the challenging things, your job is to make sure you have a positive spin on it and what we can do as a team to move forward. Versus having a negative spin or feeling overwhelmed and challenged with that. That doesn't lead others. Individuals want to know that a leader during a tough time is able to be positive and moving forward. He's going to be able to handle it. You may not have all the answers, but that attitude alone will help move things forward. Magnify improvement of your team. If you see your team members even improving small areas, maybe you've been working on some of your team members on an area for improvement, and even if they see small incremental change, acknowledge that. I think it's important that we get so caught up in not acknowledging our team members and moving ahead. We only look for the big changes versus the small changes. And the reality is it's a bunch of small changes that are going to lead to the bigger changes. What's your vision for your individuals on your team? Do you see them at a different level than they see themselves? Help them build the reputation and get them going where you think they could play. So if you have team members who are on your team that you think could be at a higher level, could be performing at a higher level, start building that image with them. Start sharing that image with them. Start showing them how to get there. That's going to influence people and get them supporting you as a leader. And I always try to stay connected, meet a common ground, whether it's goals, purpose, or focus. Sometimes we get lost and people just feel like they're doing their jobs versus what's the purpose of my job. And so just make sure that you stay connected with your team. You know, the reality is managing is tough. You have so many things coming at you. Leading an organization, you have so many aspects coming at you. But the reality is it really gets down to people. And being relationship-centered, and this book highlights being relationship-centered, truly, and how to build and influence others. And the best leaders, I always state this, are the ones that can get outcomes through others. And if you do that successfully where people feel successful, you'll feel successful. So great book. It was a fun read, fun to be reminded of some of these basic concepts. So I encourage you, pick the book up, it'll be a quick read, and then we can have a conversation about it. And I'd love to get your input. Thank you very much, Michael Gunther, and I'll talk to you next month.